I am war. Help me kill. All you have to do is do nothing.
Hello, everyone. This is Revolution, and today we're going to be pronouncing Polish and Japanese names badly. We're going to be going through history's greatest leaders. We're going to be voting on them. We all get a vote, us three, to be clear. And if there's a need for whatever reason there's a tiebreaker, we will going to you in the chat. You can be typing 1 or 2 in the chat right now on the prologue, which is the Duke of Wellington, Arthur Wesley, versus Ho Chi Minh versus Giap.
Yap.
Giap. The only one on this list I've actually read a book about him when I was 10 years old. I thought he was very, very cool. This was long before I became a communist. So he was my top communist for a long time.
I love the idea because there's this genre, right, of inspiring books for youngsters. I read Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was one of the big ones. He was a Frenchman, scientist, very Canada appropriate, right? Like teach the Anglos what they owe, the civilization of lights. I love the idea that there's a series out there which is just great revolutionary socialists, and that was the books that you were reading as a kid. Man, that was tucked into your cradle.
Accidentally bought some Vietnamese Communist Party propaganda as a child from the used bookstore.
Hey, the Vietnamese don't need propaganda; they just have history.
They just have W's. And we're going to be caring who's had the greatest W's in history today. So we may as well.
Should we also say that we're also accepting bribes again?
Sure.
Yes, inspired by the American electoral system. The votes of the chat will be registered, but they do not count until there's a super chat attached.
Yes, last week 20 votes were bought at a rate of $2 per vote. Meaning that 20 votes were bought last week, which just seems a lot. But that's probably also... No, actually, it is a lot because it's approximately a bit less than the number that each of us got. So
look at us. We are participating in democracy.
Yeah, and affordable, right? Like, we want everyone to be able to bribe their elected officials.
We are going to be going, this is, again, not a moralism. We're not doing moralisms. It will not be who is the most moral-based leader. It'll be who has the most W's. Fundamentally, this is a pure W's podcast. So we're starting off with
we're calling balls and strikes.
We're starting with the Duke of Wellington, Arthur Wesley. He first was in India. He beat up some Indians. I don't know how hard or easy that was. He governed India. He then, his next major assignment was Spain and Portugal during the Iberian Wars, where he made sure that Napoleon and Napoleon's guys were never able to take over Iberia, never able to take over Portugal, and ensured that Iberia was like a bleeding sore for Napoleonic Europe throughout his whole career.
Zbigniew Brzezinski did.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. He's the one who developed and forwarded the strategy of turning Afghanistan into a bleeding sore.
Yeah. Major influence on
Zbigniew Brzezinski is great hero
directly
of the United States. He should be a household name.
Yeah, I think that Clinton cited Brzezinski as one of the major inspirations for some of the State Department work in Ukraine.
Great.
Yeah.
which was very straightforward. It's like, oh yeah, no, this is great statecraft, and I think that what went unsaid was the undertone of destruction in that.
Yeah, everyone loves when their country gets turned into a bleeding sore. He then went on to defeat Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo, which I don't think is the most insane achievement ever, but pretty good one, I guess. Overall, a career of stuff I don't like, but undeniably a great deal of W's. They were going on to
So,
versus.
what was the relationship with Wellington?
Um,
Wait, is it
wait,
the same guy?
yes, yeah.
The because I know the Duke of
Yeah, sorry,
Wellington
it's Arthur
as the
Wellesley,
great.
Duke of Wellington, and then later Prime Minister.
Uh,
All the same guy.
uh,
The other
all
one
the
is
same
Nelson,
guy.
who was the wet boy. Nelson was the wet boy who gets shot through the heart. But Wesley and the Duke of Wellington and the Prime Minister are all the same guy.
Yeah, it's funny because I complain a lot about the tendency of Chinese emperors, especially, to have 7 different names, right? People bitch and moan about Dostoevsky or the great Russian classics because, Dimia, Ivanovich, Dmitri, right? 7 different names for the same figure. And then, like, you guys with this proper name, but also we're just going to call people by their titles.
The only person who's got a title on this list is your your insisted upon King Zog. So hopefully you'll get far based on that. As Red Droga has just shown, you can vote for your preferred option, by which you press either 1 or 2 in the chat, which is kind of disruptive and annoying. I wish it was built in a different way, but that's life. Droga has voted for Ho Chi Minh / Giap. It's our first one of 2 slash pairings we have on here today. Ho Chi Minh, of course, the revolutionary leader of Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
And Giap was the main...
If you're in the After Hours Discord server, then the slash gets spicy.
Giap was, of course, the one that humiliated and destroyed the French. Neither of them, I don't think, unless Giap... Did Giap see the end of the war?
He did. He died relatively recently.
But yeah, great leaders. I know a great deal about them. Yeah, I think they win this round very easily. I think I'll defend them more when they're up against more serious opponents.
Yeah, this is a coughing baby versus atomic bomb kind of blowout, right? Yeah. Like, it's not cool. All right, you were able to finish the job when Napoleon was already down, and you were able to, like, keep the lead in some other, like, come on, it's Dre's running a book club.
I'm inclined to, I have to vote with the Vietnamese on this, right? It's one thing to come in as the imperial superpower with all of the advantages that belong to that, throwing away the lives of sepoys and Spaniards, and then relying on Blucher and the Prussians to show up on time for the Battle of Wellington. And I mean, come on, how hard is it to get Germans to be punctual? So then you've got a colonized, humiliated, impoverished, repressed country, just one by one, ascending the imperial megastate charts to defeat across ideological lines France, Japan, the United States, and the People's Republic of China. Come on, that's saved. I don't know how much credit Giap gets for the intervention that ended the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, but he was instrumental in the Viet Minh campaigns against all of the imperial powers. So, got to give it to him.
Next up, we have Simone Bolivier versus Horatio Nelson.
I've never heard Bolivar pronounced like that. That's crazy.
Bolivier.
But he was like the guy of South America. It's again one where I think I need to have read more about him. I was reading today that he got exiled in 1815 by the Spanish to Jamaica and then ended up on Haiti. And it's like, why didn't you just kill the guy? They seem to have also killed. It wasn't a thing of like they didn't kill anyone. They weren't being like particularly nice colonizers there or nice repressive against their colonists. They'd killed a lot of guys in their oppression of New Granada. Didn't kill him. But yeah, after that, he went on and he did beat them. It took him a fair few efforts to beat the Spanish, but it was a material skill diff going on. So I don't really blame him.
What do you think of the hypothesis that I know this for a fact with Kościuszko and Stanislaw Leszczyński? There were a couple of Polish figures that Tsar, I believe it was Catherine the Great, didn't execute because she just liked them. I mean, one of them was a former lover. The other one may have been like a prospective future lover, but they seemed charming. They were fun, right? Like, why take it all so personally? They're doing their thing. Like things could have gone a little differently, and you'd be the one in chains. Bolivar was it's the Zoran Mamdani thing, right? Like, I hate its politics, and he probably wants me dead, but it's so much positive energy. Yeah. Which
There's something to be said
also,
about being likable. I mean, it saved what's his name? Bulgakov.
I mean, I'm not sure how likable he actually was, though, because after defeating the Spanish, he ended up getting forced out of all the civilian administrations he was in until he just died of tuberculosis.
Well, he also went on to, help other countries. He was, at the end of the day, a real, believer in the kind of liberal national liberation.
Internationalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was... imagine the kind of inferiority complex Che Guevara must have had.
He was also a big wife guy. He was widowed at 21 and never remarried.
Gay.
And then against him we have Nelson. Nelson went around.
Definitely gay. British Navy guy.
Well,
beating up
it's
France.
Not rum monogamy in the lash.
Beating up on France, beating up on independent Denmark when he needed to, won all the battles that was required. I think this is an interesting one of when we're assessing these leaders, how much do we rely on pure kind of battles that they personally won versus kind of the more strategic kind of situation? Because Bolivia, he lost a lot of battles, got owned a lot, got beaten a lot, but in the end had a more transformational impact in history. Well, Nelson never once lost anything. He was just he won every battle he fought, and it wasn't just pure aura farming on like massive skill diffs. He won important battles against large fleets when he needed to. So yeah, I don't know.
So for me, we introduced the stipulation that these figures couldn't just be professional military types. They needed to have some kind of strategical leadership, some big picture role. And I think that Wellington would have been competitive here, but I don't see that piece for Nelson.
Yeah, I think he struggles. I think often that's why we have so many naval figures on here. That naval figures rarely go on to like lead the country, just because your regiments aren't where you need them to be.
Also, the sea calls to them. They have to return to it.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be a landlubber.
No,
It's a fundamentally different place.
it sucks. There's women there. It's boring.
Uh, we do not, Cuba. To your secret question. Are we passing on South American here?
Sure.
He did win in chat.
I'll throw a pity vote. If
If
chat's
chat
voting for it,
will,
then it's
so
fine.
a
So
pity vote would actually draw it out if we
it
give
feels
him a full.
rude to just completely roll over him, but like, yeah, I
I
think
feel like
we'll,
you guys need to stop doing pity votes. You need to crush your enemies. I guess I can put this up here.
Yeah,
Holy
we'll never
shit.
make it on this list.
What a revelation that I realized I can put this in the top right. No longer is Cuba being completely obscured by the vote box, and instead, some random bullshit in the top right, which is previously useless, is now being used. Wait, hold on. If I change it back to this. Okay.
I can scoot over to this side.
Wait, hold on. Now it works on both. Fantastic. We have Hindenburg and Ludendorff, who were basically the military dictators of Germany in World War One. They did a lot to kind of organize and turn the German state into an industrial military machine. They defeated Russia, and then they fucking lost it all. And then Hindenburg went on to fuck it up with the Nazis. Then Suvorov.
Also, I think not for nothing, namesake of the giant blimp that crashed.
Yes, not very awful to have.
Nope.
Very awful to have a massive blimp named after you. A lot of style points there.
And then you crash it in New Jersey.
Yeah, not really massive aura loss there.
I mean, it would be different if it were a 9/11 thing. World's slowest 9/11. But
yeah, if they'd done
it
it
was just
into
fuck
Big
up.
Ben. Suvorov, he was a Russian. He dabbed all over the Ottomans. Won stunning victories against the Poles. And then,
this is basically the anti-Cuba match.
And then went on to beat up on revolutionary France in Italy until like other generals commanding other armies fucked it up. And he was forced to retreat. He was forced to cross the Alps, Hannibal style, which he succeeded very, very well in, and was regarded as like a complete military genius at the time for doing so. And then sadly, before he could win some more battles, he had to retreat. He didn't have to retreat. He died. He died of death in Moscow. He passed away.
He died to death
and could not fight any more battles. But he was an awesome man on this list who went entirely undefeated, which I think matters a lot.
And I think that the time period that he was in addition to winning a whole bunch of battles, this was very consequential because he secures the Russian claim on Crimea. He keeps Poland down, so pushing Russia into Europe. He's actually fighting within the European theater. For me, this comes down to the question of Ludendorff was definitely a Nazi. When we say that Hindenburg fucked it up with the Nazis,
yeah,
is that a win for that team, actually? Or is that a W? Or is that a loss, right?
It's not that he tried to, he was like, professed himself as anti-Nazi, and then he just like completely allowed their rise and the destruction of his own government.
Exactly.
So he did obviously would like to have destroyed German social democracy or whatever, right?
Yes.
Or any insipid thing like this, but did not want to hand over power to the Austrian corporal.
So the question is, do we think of him as like a Mitt Romney figure, or as a Chief Justice John Roberts figure?
I don't think either
Right.
of them would progress the round of 16.
The point being, point taken. Yeah, so this one is tough for me. Russian imperialist or German?
Look, if we're calling balls and strikes, going undefeated over multiple theaters, like, and you
He
die.
beat Muslims. He beat Europeans, right?
Maybe atheists.
Yeah, like you go around stomping on your enemies. What's not to love? Like, I also, love to not give it to the German guy. So
So
I'll
it
take a
seems
Russian imperialist any day.
our national biases are favoring the Russians here slightly. Kuba, do you want to give von Hindenburg a vote, though?
No, fuck them. They couldn't even win World War One.
Next up, we've got Frederick the Great versus Pilsudski.
Versus Józef Piłsudski. Yes. So let me make the case for Józef Piłsudski.
Go.
He was originally a Polish officer. He lived during the partition period, and he was trained and promoted by the Germans during World War One. In order to shore up the Eastern Front, there was a German plan to raise a force of Polish men to fight the Russians, offering them some kind of autonomy, some little territorial bounty for serving the Kaiser. And they went through all of their training. The final step was induction into the German Imperial Armed Services, which required an oath of personal loyalty to the Kaiser. And then Piłsudski and all of the Poles that had trained with him that were supposed to be this pro-German force simply refused. And they got all imprisoned. When the war was ending, they busted out. He organized a military resistance using these men as well as volunteers from all across the country, and secured militarily the independence of Poland, going on to also defeat Lithuania, taking Vilna back for the homeland, pushing into the Soviet Union. That offensive was defeated. He also pulled off the miracle on the Wisła, where Polish forces defeated the Soviet Union and prevented entry by Soviet communism into Europe, which I think just secured Frederick the Great a vote from the chat. But Piłsudski was an extremely capable leader. His men were extraordinarily devoted. He had that awesome mustache. Like, he looks like Nietzsche if Nietzsche was a Chad. And he, surprisingly enough, given everything else about him, not nationalist, chauvinist, racist. He wanted a multi-ethnic Poland with a civic political identity that would include as much of the former Commonwealth territories as possible in a large confederation. His dream was that every one of the smaller countries between the Baltic and safeguard their independence against Russia and Germany. That didn't work out politically because, well, it was the interwar period and everything sucked. But very capable, great man. And Toussaint Louverture of Poland.
If he'd lived a few more years, how do you think he would have handled?
Whereas Frederick the Great,
if he lived a few more years,
1939 unpleasantness.
Well, 38 too. Like, would he be being like Czechoslovakia? We have to go to war now.
I actually think he would. Yeah. I think that when the Germans walked into the Sudetenland, he would have marched into Berlin. He had a kind of domino theory vision of German and Soviet expansion, that unless it was arrested quickly, then one by one, all of the minor states would fall. And, like the original intervention against the Soviets wasn't to try to occupy territory, but to stand up an independent, Poland-aligned Ukrainian state. When they were in Kiev, that was the goal, and they were working with elements of not Nestor Manko, obviously, but like Ukrainian soft nationalists that were willing to buy in to this vision. And he wanted to get the Lithuanians to rejoin the Commonwealth as well, but everybody was pursuing their own national development, national greatness project. Frederick the Great, who I see has got a vote. Remember, do you know how he defeated the Russians? Piłsudski, when the offensive was coming in to take Warsaw. Yeah, Piłsudski, his team of codebreakers cracked and intercepted Russian communications, and as a result, despite having something like a 4-1 disadvantage, the Poles defeated 5 Russian armies in detail and drove them back halfway to Moscow. Frederick the Great, the Russians were marching in, Prussia was broken, about to be occupied and defeated, and unfortunately the Tsar caught a bad case of death, and that is how he beat the Russians. Like, it wasn't even campaign related. It just, one day, it's like, okay, I guess the Russians are going to come here, somebody get my suicide gun. And then the next morning, it's like, well, turns out that the Tsar ate some bad oysters or something.
I mean, it just shows that history is on his side.
This is true.
Okay. I feel bad after last round, but I kind of have to give it to the German here.
It is a thing of, I want to give it to Frederick the Great because he was gay.
He also commissioned some utterly gorgeous architecture. The I think the Berlin Opera was him. The other Sanssouci Palace, the one that's not in Haiti, which is just stunning. It's so beautiful. Which,
Cooper, you can just also vote in the chat. Wait, can TIR vote in the chat? Let's see. Yeah, I can. I feel like I've got great.
The people have spoken.
I'm amused that I also have that one. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Pilsudski passing on Pilsudski, but I do really like Frederick the Great. I like Frederick the Great because he's also kind of more than I think Gustav Adolphus, he is like the prototypical absolute monarch who not only kind of reformed, like he didn't just win on the battlefield, but he reformed the military and political and social system so that Prussia became like a weapon, so that even when lesser men were in his position, they were able to use the Prussian army to do Prussian-y things.
Well,
be a force of reaction in Europe and so on and so forth.
if that's the case, then Piłsudski, as the founder of the Polish Second Republic, doesn't he deserve some credit for creating the culture and the institutions that lead to the Armia Krajowa, the Polish secret state during World War II, the anti-Nazi resistance, the army of Anders, Monte Cassino, the Air Force that saved your asses in the Battle of Britain?
Did the Polish Socialist Republic say anything about him, or did they just kind of ignore him?
The Polish social. There are statues of him in every Polish city, and they couldn't do anything about that. Right? They got him off the money. They tried, right? Like he was. There was a period of time, especially early on, when the Pole that was elevated to be the sort of national symbol and hero of the Polish People's Republic of Poland, rather, was Felix Dzerzhinsky. That did not take. We stuck with Piłsudski. Felix Dzerzhinsky, for the chat, was the founder of the Cheka, which became the NKVD and ultimately the KGB. And if he had more of a military role, he might be on this list. But he was focused, kept his eyes on the prize, and the prize was brutal domestic repression.
Quinn, what's your final vote?
Freddie.
I'm going to move Freddie along, but I'm going to vote for the poll in the next round. So, next up, we have the goal versus Zoloweski.
Stanisław Żółkiewski.
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 De Gaulle, was a man who made the most of not a lot. He led the Free French forces in World War II, and kind of managed to make them, he got them from like one air base in the Ivory Coast to actually being like almost the fourth partner of the Allies, if not quite. And then afterwards, lost in Algeria. Didn't maintain the French Empire. Got scared by some students in 1968. Generally ruled his country and dominated his country for a long time, and I think I shouldn't make too much fun of him. I do admire his continuation of the war, the struggle, but he does also remind me a bit of Churchill, and not in a good way. Wow.
That's a good comparison, actually.
Our second Pole of the night, he occupied Moscow. I don't think he did this exactly at a time of peak Russianism.
Still.
Well,
Polish-Lithuanian.
He did beat up on the Ottomans a lot, and then it died heroically in the battle against them, which is pretty cool.
Żółkiewski is not going to be familiar to a lot of people. Sorry, we're stepping over each other. My audio is fine. You finish. You finish.
I'm good. Go on.
Oh, so Żółkiewski was one of the peak leaders of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and he, unlike most of the people on this list, conquered Moscow. Napoleon couldn't, Hitler couldn't, Genghis Khan could. So could there was even a political arrangement that he was largely behind to unify the Russian Empire or rather the Muscovite principality with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. That relied on making the Polish crown prince the Tsar of Russia. Unfortunately, we had a bad king at that point who insisted on taking the Tsar's crown for himself. And that messiness, together with the anti-Polish nationalism that it stirred, triggered enough of a revolt of the boyars to push the Poles back out.
Right, I mean, because
Now,
often happens, he's welcomed into Moscow by a part of the Russian nobility, right?
exactly. There's Russian on Russian dynamics that get really, really ugly, and then this triggers this whole period is known as the Russian deluge, right? Just a catastrophic time of troubles. No, it's the time of troubles. That's what it is. The deluge is there's several of them, but anyway,
Wasn't the deluge
triggering a time of troubles. Sorry.
Wasn't the deluge more in
No.
Ukraine? And like the
deluge was no, it was the Swedish invasion of northern Poland. Right, like it's coming in from the Balts and then just ravaging the hell out of the parts of Poland that were still nice after the Khmelnytsky rebellion in Ukraine. So, because the Moscow thing was more ephemeral, frankly, Piłsudski is he's the guy that I would have preferred to see advance. But, got to go with the Polak on this one.
Any objections, Quinn?
No. I'm on Team Poland for this round, 100%.
This is insane. Then I'm the vote for De Gaulle.
Oh. Wait, what did the chat vote for? Okay, they also vote for him, so we'll give him 3 still. Nicole gets 1. Up next, it's Ney versus Tokugawa Ieyasu.
Tokugawa
Ieyasu. Ney. So I should say Napoleon Bonaparte is not on this list because he would just win, or at least I would put him through every round, along with Alexander the Great and who was the other person? Oh, Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
So
there's some people we just can't have.
Yeah. So we're left with
Exactly.
Michael Ney, who was one of Napoleon's greatest generals, won a lot of battles, died very heroically and very tragically in the end. He did, in part, go over to the Bourbons when Napoleon fell, but after this, as soon as Napoleon returned, he switched sides again, and unlike a lot of people, after the end of this, the king actually tried to punish him as some attempt to regain legitimacy, regain kind of control of the situation, and so they tried to put him through a court-martial, but that didn't work because all his fellow generals refused to indict him. They all basically said that they did not have legitimacy to rule over the case. But that just meant the case was passed to Parliament, or what passed for Parliament in those days, in France, who voted to indict him, and then he was shot to death just after he said his famous line of, "I have fought 100 battles for France, and none against her. Soldiers, fire." Great guy, cool guy, but not the main character of the era. More is included on this section so that we can talk about Napoleon some more. Versus our first unifier of Japan. He was the one who set up the Tokugawa shogunate that lasted up until the Meiji Restoration. He did that sort of stuff. He kind of restored things after the failed attempt to conquer Korea. I don't know if Kuba wants to speak on him.
Yeah. So Tokugawa Ieyasu is there's three unifiers of Japan that are typically cited: Oda Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. And Oda was the first, very much a domestic kind of bully everybody to come together. Hideyoshi actually wins the Japanese war, but then goes on to have greater ambitions, invades Korea with the plan of putting himself on the throne of the Chinese Empire. That turns into a fiasco. Tokugawa Ieyasu, who was one of the most loyal vassals of Hideyoshi, after Hideyoshi's death, betrays his son, who was a child at the time, instead takes power for himself and creates the unified Tokugawa shogunate. He abandons ambitions for overseas expansion and instead institutes the closed state period, Sakoku, where no trade with the West, no Western infiltration, no Western missionary activity, kicked out the Portuguese, kicked out the all of the Western merchants and troublemakers that had come in during the Warring States period. He took their guns, right? Thank you for that, the gunpowder, but no thank you for the Jesus. And one of the institutions that he creates that leads to this extremely long period of stability is a very enlightened type of succession, where at a certain point, once his son had come of age, he retires. He doesn't completely vanish from political life, but he creates this role of former emperor as a Deng Xiaoping style advisory gray eminence figure,
Yep.
allowing his son to have the visibility, the prestige, the status of governing, as well as making big decisions for himself, just with Ieyasu's input. And then this model persists all the way until the Meiji Restoration. Succession planning typically devastates. That's where you have empires fall. That's where you have states collapse. That's where leaders fail. Tokugawa Ieyasu was very far forward thinking in this. Honestly, like, whatever. Ney's a Frenchman who won a bunch of battles, but Tokugawa Ieyasu, he had the strategic brilliance not to do overseas imperialism. That alone is an extraordinary show of leadership and restraint.
No, yeah, I think
I mean,
sorting out succession is like one of the hardest things for any kind of pre-modern state to do. So anyone that managed to do that gets points from me. What were you saying, Quinn?
I was just gonna say, like, in terms of scoreboard, a quarter century of like a stable shogunate is crazy.
I don't know what you think of Sherman, but instead of Grant, I put William T. Sherman on the list, just because I think he was more independent in his actions. Though I probably should have included Grant because I excluded him from the president's poll. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've done that. But we move. What are you giggling and gaggling about, Quinn?
I'll put it in the private chat.
Okay. I'll read it then. Who won the okay, Nay won the chat. Next up we have, I think, one of our most kind of sensical matchups. Between Castro and George Washington. Both kind of founders of a nation, creators of a nation. I don't think they're two people we really need to intro. Probably the first matchup where we don't really need to intro either of them. But I'll start off by saying I am personally inclined, not by a lot, but by a little, to say Castro, just because he did it and then preserved in more like difficult circumstances with a smaller country. Though from the start, like obviously George Washington had to beat the British Empire. Castro didn't actually have to beat the American Empire, but also maneuvered in such a way that he wouldn't have to. So
Yeah. Also, like I think there's points to be gained by like starting at a disadvantage, right? Like you sail in and you lose all but what, like 9 or 10 of your guys,
yeah,
and then you regain an entire army by just going up into the mountains and finding more people that hate the government.
yeah.
It's massive aura and a huge achievement from like a kind of military organization standpoint.
Yeah. Like
Plus, you have to think about all of the failed assassination attempts. The Bay of Pigs, just being able to preserve the independence of Cuba under the conditions of embargo. Imagine the level of counterintelligence that he had to have engineered to prevent, right, like Marco Rubio's grandfather from coming back in and taking the Bacardi distilleries back.
Yeah. And I think Charles Ghost Castro was like somewhat wealthy, like upper middle class, but not like filthy rich.
Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm just changing Sherman to Grant on the thing.
I
Anyone argue in favor of George Washington? He was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think-
Pray for our Neb makes a not terrible suggestion that like Washington kind of pioneered a lot of the tactics that Castro used.
George Washington is also our first appearance on 2 separate polls.
The George Washington, did he come up with the strategy of using connections with the Soviet Union to try to get under their nuclear umbrella?
Yes, it's called the Kingdom of France.
Point taken.
Send our weird nerd over there. He likes to have fun at court.
Yeah, I feel like George Washington would have gone insane if he had a telephone.
I mean, yeah. He also like
Okay, so I'll take the contrarian's position and vote for Washington on this one.
Quinn, you going Castro?
I think so. I think I'm like at the end of the day, I think I'm more impressed with Castro. Like Washington was a good military leader, but I think Castro is the name that's calling out to me in my heart.
While our previous matchup made a lot of sense, this matchup is quite bizarre. We have FDR versus Chernyakhovsky.
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 Yeah, what he said.
FDR, famous president.
CZ is CH. CH is guttural H.
Chernyakhovsky. What's his first name?
Nitsifor.
Nitsifor. Oh, I like that name. We've got FDR, led the US in World War II.
That's nice for you.
Led the US before that. And then we have our third pole of the matchup, who did
third but not last.
Shit. He
Bizarre shit.
He founded Poland and Asia. He was on some kind of accidental kind of Stalinist ASSR.
He was on a John Wick style revenge. So Nitsufa Chernyakhovsky he started out, as one does, as a Polish exile into Siberia from one of the innumerable uprisings that occurred against the Russian Empire. And he was sent into exile deeper and deeper east. He was sent there with his family and with his men. That's a mistake that the Russians do remarkably often, imprisoning people with trained, experienced, and capable soldiers loyal to them, right? It feels like you should have figured that one out, but it's actually a lot easier to get the leaders to go if they can take their men with them, right? It saves you the trouble of having to try to disarm or kill them.
I mean, I assume it's also
on
like
the spot.
often deliberate that like they're like, okay, you're a rebel against me, but if I place you on like the horrendous frontier where you're only against like weird guys with horses on the steppe, ultimately you're going to be more aligned with me than them.
Except no, right? So the governor of the town that he was exiled to was abusive towards his daughter. It's unclear if it was sexual assault or what, but he and his men kill the guy, and then they keep going east until they reach the borderlands between the Russian Empire and, I believe at that point it was Ming Dynasty China, maybe Yuan Dynasty China. Doesn't matter. 17th century China, Ming, and he carved out through strategic alliances with local people and trying to play the Tsar and the Emperor off against each other, a principality called Yaksa. That, I mean, it didn't last long. How could it? But come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to pass them on just because that's really fucking cool. I don't really care. And like, FDR, I think, is, well, you know, as, you know, great Anglophile, savior of my nation, really. But I do think his great achievements are mostly directed elsewhere. One of the guys that was excluded from our greatest president polls because he would self-evidently win. The guy that kind of broke the Washington tradition of double terms, and was generally a massive Chad. But I don't know if this is like the list for him. Don't know
Yeah.
if this would be,
I mean,
for him.
there's some really great stories of him and Stalin like fucking with Churchill in meetings. That give me a deep fondness for him. Outside of all of the other achievements, I have a soft place in my heart for just anything to get under Churchill's skin and get him annoyed. Fuck that guy. We'll get to him later. I think.
Yes,
On this list?
will.
Yeah. But I think that the poll is probably going to win. So I'll throw the I'll do my good patriotic duty and vote for the good president that saved capitalism.
I mean, I'm voting for FDR too.
Oh shit! Wait,
I'm definitely not.
No,
So
Chernyakhovsky is awesome and amazing, and his adventure was great. But like, somebody beat the Third Reich, right? Like, that's
yeah.
I would argue that
you have to do an actual vote now.
Okay.
mhm.
I think if I have to do an actual vote, it's still FDR.
Rip. So
As much as I love a good,
It would have
John
been
Wick.
something else if, like, the Principality of Yaksa ended up becoming South Korea or something. But it was a brief, glorious flash in the pan.
I mean, just better than most of those fucking leftist uprisings we did however weeks ago.
This is true. That the bottom tier, which is like do not bother.
Next up, we have one of the GOATs, Oliver Cromwell. versus Garibaldi. Cromwell, of course, destroyed the British monarchy for a time. He created a real professional army. He suppressed all the people that he needed to suppress. He toyed with the idea of like invading France and, you know, making like a a Protestant Republic of Europe, but sadly was not that much of an aura farmer. So he just continued to defend Britain. I'm a massive fan, but he did fuck up the succession by just basically just ignoring it until the day he died. So he loses big points for me on that. But overall, I'd be backing him against basically anyone. Up against Garibaldi, who of course founded Italy. He didn't really fight a lot of battles, but that was because he didn't have to, because he created circumstances where just the structures around him kind of just fell apart because he was just rising them up that much, you know.
I got to give it to Garibaldi on this. Partly because his Italian republic, his vision, is basically still around, right? Say what you will about this post-World War II capitalist bourgeois Italian republic. Yes, of course, deeply compromised and subordinated to the United States, but it's closer to Garibaldi's vision than the modern UK is to Cromwell's. That's one reason why he could just show up in Naples and have everyone defect to him, right? That's one reason why he never had to fight. He was almost like a Taoist style of war fighting. You figure out what the grand historical forces are pushing towards, and you find the spot where all of the nodes, all of the lines of effort intersect, and you're just there for it to happen. Think about it, right? Like, it's not the true conqueror the one who needs to defeat no one, right? And he, compared to Cromwell, right? Like Ireland alone. So I gotta give it to Garibaldi, right? Like that, and I mean, after all, that's the classic.
I think for the strictures of this list, I don't think we should be like, oh, well, Cromwell did this shit to the Irish. Because if we start doing that, then like many of the previous men that we've discussed and not mentioned their moral capacities would be fucked.
Let me put it this way. The real comparison is not that Cromwell did a really bad thing in Ireland and Garibaldi didn't. But if you think about Sicily as being a problem, right? Like, or southern Italy, Naples, as being an issue for Italy, right? A region that's closely aligned and strategically irreplaceable, but one that has a difficult relationship with the core. Garibaldi secured it for Italy in a way that didn't destroy it, didn't depopulate it, didn't turn that into a devoted
there's no
shanty writing. Exactly. They just have the mafia like they always have. And that's something. So I think that being able to preserve the country that you conquer, that, like succession planning, is an underrepresented, an underappreciated dimension of leadership that actually is more essential than mere battle winning.
I mean, I was actually leading Cromwell beforehand. I think Kuba has started to sway me.
I would say that after Cromwell, Ireland remained as part of the United Kingdom, Britain, whatever, up until
what did we call what was the term before open wound, running sore?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? There were periods where it was, you know, definitely a niggling thing. But there were periods where Ireland was actually very quiet. Like the Protestant ascendancy. I mean, the main problem, I mean, maybe that's what we can blame Cromwell for. kind of instituting like institutional Protestantism in the United Kingdom, such that was what made Ireland into a running sore instead of just the country just falling completely into English sway.
There's also a second order effect here, which is he did genocide badly. By failing to, please don't misinterpret this, but by failing to properly wipe out the Irish domestically, he creates these waves of desperate migration. The United States, but also ultimately culminating in the transportation of massive amounts of Irish to Australia. So instead of defeating Irish papism, he ends up seeding it globally and creating Fenians, the city of Boston as we know it,
Whoops.
bagpipe punk music, right? All of that Cromwell's fault.
Yeah, I'll vote for Garibaldi. You don't have to convince me. I mean, I would say again that I don't think Cromwell's actions in Ireland were particularly notable for the 17th century. Like we're going on to talk about Gustav Adolphus, and compared to just like any normal shit that was happening in the 30 Years' War, I don't think.
Oh yeah, the Spanish in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think this was your attempt, but killing the butterfly that created Dropkick Murphys, you know, it's a compelling case. Maybe it was all worth it. But no, I'm still not gonna vote for Cromwell.
Rip.
Going for Garibaldi.
Next up, we've got a very fun one, and I would argue also kind of a similar kind of guy, though people rarely would think about it in such terms. Oops, shoot. We've got Trotsky versus Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. As all learned men will say, Mustafa Kemalin Askarai's. Trotsky, of course, was a Russian. He was a Jew. Maybe our only Jew on the list. Oh no, there's another one. He led, in part, the Red Army at an early phase. He was one of the negotiators with Germany. He fucked that up, to be honest. Overall, I think he was cool. His contribution to the Russian Revolution is definitely positive, even if it's mixed at times. I don't know if it can be considered a black mark against him that he failed to win out against the struggle in Stalin, but maybe it is. Maybe that is actually a really big black mark against him.
I think it might be useful to kind of separate what we're talking about here, because Trotsky, as like a military leader, was, I think, by and large a huge success, but as a political actor, as a mover and shaker, he fell flat on his face and fucked up all the time, to the point where he had to run to Mexico and
yeah, I mean, because we are doing like military political history. It's less about founding the NHS, but I think guaranteeing the existence of your nation is a very relevant part of today's. Even if you make a country into a complete shithole, but it can still win wars and still preserve its existence, I think today you're on a winning track. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, he of course saved Turkey when it was absolutely on its fucking ass. Established kind of Turkey as a country, defeated the Greeks. Also continued getting places where he could plausibly get it, like they annexed Hatay / Alexandretta from Syria in the 30s. He repressed Islamism and shit, which I think is really cool, but not really relevant for today's. Abolished the Caliph, not really relevant.
He kept the Armenians down.
Yep. He defeated all the people that needed defeated, really. His kind of only flaw in terms of the long-term structure of Turkey is that he turned the Kurds, who were previously kind of compulsively loyal to the Ottoman Empire, into a permanent enemy of the Turkish Republic. But because of the evolution of nationalism, that was presumably going to happen anyway. And he kind of just got ahead of the train by shooting the Kurds before they were before the British and French got the Kurds to shoot Turkey.
I wonder how valuable is Kurdistan for contemporary Turkey? Like, is there an argument to be made to be like, just let them go? I mean, obviously not for Erdogan, obviously not with the mentality of contemporary Turkey, but the that may be the biggest drain on Turkish development, right? This obsessive need to control the Kurdish territory.
Yeah, so I guess it's a big political economy question of whether having a large undeveloped region is like good or bad for your country. Because I think, Turkish capitalism in the 1970s and 60s benefited massively from importing Kurdish workers from their villages into Turkish cities and then paying them a tuppence to produce industrial goods and so on. But of course, that did lead these Kurds to learning how to read and write and do communism, which was not great for the Turkish Republic. It's also a question of how profitable so far and in the future will be Turkish entanglements in Syria and Iraq. But I guess this is going way too far to be blaming it all on Ataturk.
Yeah, I mean, I think that given the the success of the events taking place after their military careers, right? Ataturk clearly had the more durable legacy. Under Trotsky, the Red Army lost to Poland. Piłsudski, who apparently couldn't get out of round one, beat this guy. So I'll be damned if I let Trotsky out of round one.
Yeah, pretty easy one.
It just feels like, as like military leaders, as like, points on the board, battles won, strategies followed through on, they're both like pretty capable commanders and strategists, but one of them was not the biggest shark in the pond and had to run away, and the other one wasn't. And there's points for winning. So
there's points for winning. Amen.
I mean, at least you got to hang out at Frida Kahlo's house. It's very pretty. Mexico City has great food. I'm sure he was eating good before he got popped.
Yeah, 0 points for doing well in exile. Let's pass Ataturk through.
I think chat wants to vote, so we can give Trotsky a pity point.
Yeah, sure. Up next, we have Gustavus Adolphus versus Oda, our second Japanese unifier. Gustavus Adolphus led Sweden in the 30 Years' War. He intervened to save the European Protestants, mainly in Germany, from being crushed by the Catholic Alliance. He pioneered kind of artillery maneuver warfare. He did some really cool stuff, like he taught his heavy cavalry how to operate artillery. So when his heavy cavalry would go around and capture artillery pieces, they could then get off their horses, man the artillery, and shoot the Catholics in the back.
He built some really, really cool boats.
Yeah. He wasn't like an insane internal reformer, but he did do some modernism within Sweden. And I think he really gets... It's hard for me to come back to the fact that he was doing artillery mobile warfare, but like in the late end of the 16th century.
No, as a world leader, he's a fucking Chad.
Okay, I'm gonna propose something. Oda Nobunaga, in a lot of ways, is the least impressive of the Japanese unifiers. Let's sub him out with the best Haitian we can think of. Like
See, that's another argument.
Dessalines.
But that's just going to.
I mean, yeah, it's probably Dessalines.
3-0'd. I mean, I agree that he's not very interesting.
But at least, you know, Oda Nobunaga, one point in his favor that could be made is that given the relative population density and sophistication and wealth disparity between Baltic Europe and medieval Japan, Oda Nobunaga fought many, many more people. Right, he defeated much larger armies. He dealt with probably, I'm not going to say more varied terrain, but a very challenging diplomatic landscape. No one thought that unifying Japan was possible until Nobunaga, and he did it with the kind of aura that gets you, that lets you continue to creep out people 500 years after your death, right? Like,
yeah, it's funny
everyone,
he was actually doing like European Enlightenment stuff. Like he was abolishing like internal trade barriers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
that was Tokugawa.
Yeah.
Instead, Oda Nobunaga was doing. He was closer to Attila the Hun, early Chinggis model, where, for instance, he ultimately is murdered by a clan that he had tried to wipe out, and nonetheless was able to exact vengeance on them. I can't remember if it was members of the family itself or just their loyal retainers, you know, samurai style. But yeah, Oda Nobunaga, tough bastard.
Gustavus Adolphus, I think, also gets points for doing like the whole professionalized military thing centuries before anyone else was. I mean, they all
early and in a poor country.
Yeah, they all kind of died through the 30 Years' War, which kind of put a kibosh on any of Sweden's like.
Yeah, there's a question of like
ambitions.
How useful was intervention in the 30 Years' War for Sweden? Because there's a question of like, okay, the point was kind of, you know, it was like a domino strategy. They were like, if Germany falls, then eventually the Catholics will come for us. But is that plausible? Would that have happened?
Like, I think
Sweden had intervened, would other forces intervened in Germany in order to maintain the balance of power?
It's hard to say. I mean, counterfactual history is always fun to play around with, but this is actually an interesting question. Because I think that they were really impactful in the 30 Years' War.
Yeah.
And probably not great for Sweden in the long run.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us?
Yeah.
If you win militarily, but like strategically, it's kind of a blunder, or is it like, you know, I'm fighting for beliefs or whatever?
Yeah. He also has a Sabaton song, which matters for some, I imagine. I wonder how many Sabaton songs we have on this list. Probably a fair few.
Half of their catalog.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm voting for Gustav.
Gustav.
And I assume if we had replaced Oda with a Haitian, we would all be now voting the same way. Because any Haitian you'd vote against Gustav, so
Point
I
taken.
would. This is a great matchup for a left-wing chat. We have Winston Churchill versus Cortez.
I love talking about Cortez. Because
Churchill,
all of the information we have about Cortez, both pro and anti, comes from fucking liars. Who were both lying to the Spanish crown for different reasons.
I was going to tell a great awful story of him, but maybe Quinn's going to be like, actually, it's fake news.
Okay, what's the awful story?
I'll talk about Churchill first.
Okay.
So Churchill led Britain into a disastrous naval campaign, amphibious assault in World War One. He wanted to shoot all the working class people in Britain in 1923. During the Second World War, he became Prime Minister, and basically his main thing...
glazed over a famine in between that he caused in India.
How did he do that? I thought he did that in... Was a Big Bengal famine not in World War II?
I thought it was pre.
Maybe there was one, because the big one where I think everyone died was in the 1940s, which was...
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah. Which is why it's not completely clear it was the British's fault, because, shit was going on, but I think it's still fairly blamed on them. In World War II, his main thing was basically going, fuck off, we're going to continue fighting the war. And with his kind of nature and public appearances, he was able to get the British public to go along with this. But I think beyond that, as a military political leader, he was not great. Basically, his thing was stubbornly carrying on, which sometimes is the right thing to do and sometimes was the wrong thing to do. I think he was
a very British thing to do.
I think he was the right man at the right time, but then famously, of course, lost the election as soon as the war ended, which shows you something. Cortez, on the other hand, with 12 men and a dog, he conquered the Aztec Empire. The awful story I was going to tell was that the governor of Cuba sent some guys to arrest Cortez because Cortez was going to go on his expedition to Mexico. But then the governor was like, you can't go. So Cortez was like, I'm going. And the governor sent some guys to arrest him. But Cortez just killed the leader of that expedition and then used the rest of the guys that came with him as reinforcements.
So that is true.
Okay, cool.
There's an apocryphal story about him burning his ships when he lands in Mexico, which is not actually true. He did sink them, but that was just so that the guys he took couldn't go back to the governor and tell on him, because he only really had legal permission to go talk to the Aztec, and he was like, no, fuck that, we're going to invade.
Yeah, it is funny how legalistic the Spanish Empire was.
Oh, incredible.
They had these absolutely psychotic knightly martial classes who were descendants from these people who'd been fighting the Muslims for 1,000 years or whatever. But then actually the administrative...
The Hidalgos.
Of Spanish Empire in the 16th century was incredibly you can't do that, actually.
I will say, to Rar's comment, Bartolomé de las Casas' account of the conquest was also full of complete self-serving lies to make Cortez look worse than he actually was, while Cortez was lying to make himself look more important than he actually was. One of the big problems here is that Montezuma was kind of managing an empire already in collapse.
Yeah.
And the big blunder he made, according to Cortez, is oh yeah, he just let me into the city and basically surrendered, and this was kind of a error in translation when Montezuma was kind of being yeah, I so don't see you as a threat, I'm willing to come let you stay at my house.
But then when you get blown the
There's-
fuck out after saying that, it's not. You don't get points.
Yeah, kind of, but like you don't. He doesn't really get fully blown the fuck out by Cortez. Cortez is just the one who like lasts long enough to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
That
But also like just like as a catalyst, right?
kind of, but also like Cortez is used by a lot of the kind of vassals of the Aztec Empire as like an excuse in order to like as a casus belli to go to war against the crumbling empire that does nothing but take taxes.
Oh, no. It also captures members of your elite and your royal family for ritual human sacrifice. Don't forget.
Kind of. I think that I have some small quibbles with the term human sacrifice because I think technically it was ritualized execution. And that is a subtle difference, but I do think it's an important one.
I mean, had they been convicted of a crime?
Yes. No, the people that they killed were all like enemy combatants or people that were like convicted of some kind of offense against the empire.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you start the war in order to accumulate and collect a large number of people to execute, how guilty are they of anything but being the people you want to execute, that you want to sacrifice?
Well, okay, sure. Like, we're getting into a larger question of what guilt means. But it's not like you were just grabbing people off the street to like give to the sun god. Like it was more complicated than that. And it was done within the like the Aztec had their own, like just like the Spanish, kind of ridiculous legalistic bullshit that they went through for all of it. I think also Cortez got really, really lucky that he got La Malinche, who was like just forced to be
Behind every great man, ...
I think she gets a bad rap because she just did not have a lot of agency. She was like bought and sold and like horrible tragedy, but also one of the more talented like translators. She was like fluent in 30 languages or something. She's her own real like misunderstood historical figure that needs more credit. But okay, that's my rant on Cortez.
He did his own Gallipoli and it worked.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how Cortez does in subsequent rounds, but I think he clears this one. Damn, we're 1 hour 23 and we haven't finished the first fucking round.
We should, when we're not giving intros on everyone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it gets like what's the word? Like exponentially faster until you reach the very few rounds, but still.
Yeah.
We've got King Zionist occupation government going on here. Versus the man that tried to conquer Korea to try and conquer China. Kuba, why is King Zionist occupation government?
We didn't actually vote on Churchill.
Oh shit. Cortez, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cortez.
Yeah, Kuba, why is King Zog in here?
King Zog, founder of the first independent Albanian state, killed and fought his way to the throne. And he managed to resist Italian occupation, Italian pressure for decades, keep the Yugoslavs out. And he is the only head of state ever to return fire after an assassination attempt. So, Aura, Chad,
Aura.
plus his name is Zog.
It's a pretty cool name.
It's a,
The
I think we were just voting on
Hideyoki
name.
Was a victim of his own success.
Was this the Japanese guy that got murdered?
Hideyoshi, on the other hand,
Didn't return fire.
some people like to. Well, some people like Hideyoshi because he was the only one of the three founders that didn't come from a samurai background. He started out as a straight up peasant, right? Then he went all the way to the top. But there's a great deal of. You got to imagine that Japanese samurai are snobby like no one else. So this definitely complicated his ability to do diplomacy and to keep his coalition together. Which nonetheless, he managed to unify the entire country. He just had the ginormous fuck up of trying to go into mainland Asia. Now, both of them end up more or less losing their kingdoms as a result. Zog, it was his own goddamn fault.
Yeah, I guess also how are we rating on this scale, like over ambitious but cool ideas, like invading Korea to conquer China to make a Japanese man the emperor?
I mean,
Because
I don't think we're given participation awards.
Yeah, like us, you can pull it off.
Well, he didn't lose, right, in his lifetime. He just failed to win. But then, of course, his successors failed, which, as we've established, doesn't get you a lot of points around here today. I mean, I still feel like he beats King Zog.
Yeah. He's not a super strong. I don't think he's going to go that far, but I think he beats out King Cool Name.
So when asking him Zog has a first name, it's Ahmed.
Yeah, he was born. He wasn't always King Zog. He shortened it from Zogoli, probably because it sounded too Italian.
Yeah, it's not very aura.
I'm voting for Zog. Zog's my boy.
Okay. Quinn?
Hideyoshi.
I'd forgotten there was another Polish guy. We've got Moshe Dayan, leader of the IDF. Was on the Jerusalem front in the 48 war. Was on the led basically the IDF during 1967. In between, in the Egypt, in the Sinai. No, in the Sinai he led the IDF, and then in 67 he was the Minister of Defense. He won all of those, of course. Though he was blamed for the fuck up with the Yom Kippur War, but he then redeemed himself by being one of the main guys to negotiate the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. So overall, I think a very, very successful guy. Is also kind of wide-ranging in that he went from a field commander to an operational commander to Ministry of Defense to foreign minister, all serving Israel's interests, and apart from the fuck-up in the Yom Kippur War, all serving Israeli interests very well. Kuba, do you want to introduce our last Polish guy?
Yes, Jan Sobieski is probably the one that's best known out of anybody on this list, because he was the Polish king that arrived during the siege of Vienna with the massive Catholic army that broke the Ottoman siege. Yeah, there's several Sabaton songs about him.
Yes.
And then the winter saws arrive. So he saves Vienna, which is both his crowning glory and his greatest mistake. Right? After the experience of the partitions in the 20th century, there's a significant portion of Polish historiography that suggests his optimal strategy would have been to show up with the army, But rather than charging downhill to absolutely smite the hell out of the Ottomans and drive them halfway back to Istanbul, he should have just, rode down to have a mano a mano with the Grand Vizier and been like, okay, so I can't let you have Vienna, but, you can have everything south of here, and I'll just take this chunk for myself. Sobieski was also a very capable king, right? Poland was strong when he was in charge. He failed to secure the throne for his son. Poland had a terrible succession system, but he was politically capable, and he definitely stewarded the country through a difficult period with peace, and that was a relatively good time to be Polish. Now,
Bless you.
Moshe Dayan feels as though he's secured. Then again, right, like from our perspective right now, maybe this is like 20, 30 years after the siege of Vienna was lifted, when Poland looks great and untouchable. Similarly, right now, Israel seems to be on the rise, seems to be disconcertingly, dangerously powerful. But maybe those weaknesses, right, the vulnerabilities that right now are beginning to show at the edges of Israeli society, and they're beginning to enter into Israeli statecraft. Maybe Moshe Dayan's legacy is not as triumphant as we think.
I mean, for me, I feel like he's something like Belisarius, where he just was handed a deck. He was dealt a hand of cards and he played them very well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the Israeli use of air power in 67 completely redefined how modern aerial bombardment happens in conflict. It just completely changed the way that an invasion or large scale combat happens. And all of the the Iran-Iraq war, the fucking Gulf War, everything that happened and is happening in the Middle East since 67 is done in a military context in the wake of really, really successful Israeli deployment of air power, air superiority, and air-fired munitions.
Someone in chat was like, "Oh, so two Polish guys," but Dayan was, first off, his parents were Ukrainian, but they were also the first Zionists to arrive in mandatory Palestine. So Dayan, he was born in Palestine in 1915.
Look, and my people have pointed out all of the nationalisms I've done today, and I'm sure that if they wanted to, you could make a content nuke, which is just me being problematic. But I certainly believe that somebody can be Jewish and Polish. There's no obstacles to that. However, I don't think you can be Polish and Zionist, in the sense that if you're dedicating yourself to the realization of an ethno-nationalist project that is the one that you were born into, then you've kind of shut the door on that part of your identity. There's plenty. Yeah, exactly. Right. I kind of feel like if you do Aliyah and to Israel, then I'm not saying that automatically invalidates your whole card, but I am saying we need to see some effort. And Moshe Dayan, he changed his name and everything, right? He ran as far from Poland as he could.
Yeah, I mean, I on this point, I recommend Molly Crabapple's new book, newish book. It's a good read.
What's it called?
It is called "Here Where We Are Is Our Home." It's a history of the Jewish Bund and the international labor movement, and its impact on Jewish history in the past 200 years.
I am voting for the IDF. Kuba, you're voting for the Polish guy?
Yeah, I mean, I can't do otherwise. I voted for FDR on the other side, and that's all the race treason I can countenance for one day.
Quinn, do you want the guy who defeated the Muslims or the guy who defeated the Muslims?
I'm gonna go back to my old ethnic politics and vote for the Jew.
Good chat, sir. It's a Polish guy. Up next, we have Grant, as in the American president, which was artfully modified from earlier, versus Shaka Zulu. Shaka Zulu, I think, is very cool. He's basically like the Philip of Macedon of the Zulu. He instituted a great deal of military reforms which are sufficiently severe that even though he didn't really do social reforms, they ended up being social reforms in the sense that they were so like widespread. They were in fact. Oh, the poll is wrong. It should be Grant, but I've got it right on the.
We could do a slash. We've done that before. We could do Sherman and Grant.
Yeah, wait, I can fix it. It's fine. Does someone want to explain what Grant did in his life while I fix this?
So Grant reoriented the Union strategy away from an attempt to, I guess, McClellan's Fabian strategy of just like running away and not fighting and then hoping to defeat Lincoln in the election, towards a war of attrition, which heavily emphasized the strengths of the Union in military production, manpower, mobilization, logistics. A very wise, self-aware, and relevant strategy, right? Don't let the South fight the war that they want. Putting him and Sherman together, because Sherman was a master executioner of this approach, who took it not only from a defensive, or rather like a strengthening system, let's build up our industry, let's mobilize as many men as possible, but played the forward game where you don't just seek out the Southern armies, but you destroy their bases to compete with you industrially. He burned down Atlanta. He knew to tear up railroads that couldn't be controlled, that kind of thing. So they're a formidable combination. And the major weakness that I would say coming from Grant and Sherman is that, one, Reconstruction failed. And two, when Grant was in power, what he did as president was to try to shore up and entrench the gains that he had achieved on the battlefield in terms of desegregating the federal services and moving against the resurgent white supremacy. But he wasn't able to pull it off. Ultimately, he was politically undone to the point where, until relatively recently, Grant was presented in this sort of semi-objective way as a failed president by even historians that didn't have a lost cause sympathy. The reality is that he did as much as he could, but he was limited in what he was able to do. Part of that had to do with his drinking. Part of that had to do with just his political weaknesses.
Yeah, I
But
think he lost a lot of kind of points in American polite society because he ended his life as like a poverty-stricken alcoholic.
exactly. So I think that um, yeah, Prairie Fire Nebraska is correct. The um, Grant really did seek to root out the white supremacist terrorism of Reconstruction period, but he was defeated by politics. And does that mean that Shaka Zulu, like one way to frame this would be who did more for black people, but another way to frame it would be who did more for slaves. Because
I think Shaka Zulu killed a lot of black people.
he did, and I'm pretty sure he didn't free very many slaves.
No. But that's not what's on the docket today.
That's not what's on the docket today. How long did the Zulu kingdom or empire outlive Shaka?
A long while. I think it was at least 100 years. Though the problem
really that
with
long?
is that Shaka Zulu did not have. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I can't remember exactly when he was alive, but I think it's earlier than you might think.
Because I thought he died really young.
Yeah, but the big problem with him is he didn't have an Alexander. Like, he set up this whole structure. Shaka Zulu didn't actually fight that many battles, but did create what, for the time and in the area, was a very effective. Yeah, so he died in 1828.
Yeah, so he died at 41.
And so 60 years, maybe, before the Zulu Empire, Kingdom, whatever you want to call it, was suppressed.
That's not nothing.
I mean, that's better than Reconstruction.
1897, so it was 70 years. Yeah, I think the big fuck up of Shaka.
I'm going to give it to Shaka.
He was presented with European technology, like guns and various other stuff, and he was like, and actually this shit sucks. Like, it's not like, so he wasn't like, he refused the Meiji Revolution of the Shaka Zulu. He refused to engage with Western technology. He used to kind of use it to revolutionize Zulu society. But I think it's still enough for probably for him to move on this round. Quinn, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm thinking that if this is Grant Sherman, we're talking just crushing the Confederacy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm weighing in my head how much I care about not actually like losing, like winning the fighting part of the war and then losing after because Reconstruction falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, maybe we should move Grant along because he did get $5. I more use the $5 to actually put him on the poll.
Yeah, I think I'm still on team fuck the Confederacy, smoking on the slave owner pack.
Okay, we'll give this one round to Grant. I do really like Grant.
See, I got more bribery coming in here to save me too.
Okay, yeah, he's definitely through them. Yankee Capital destroys the South. In our final matchup of the first round, we have Pizarro versus Mao Zedong. This is our other conquistador. This was one that did in the Incan Empire. I think a great example of invading a country where you're alien to its social context and then like red wedding all over them, in the sense of like you just go in and you violate all the social norms that they don't even consider like thinking outside of, and so in doing so you you like completely annihilate them. And this doesn't come back and this doesn't fuck you over in the end. I mean, he did get assassinated, but by other Spaniards, I think. It doesn't fuck him in the end because he just so systemically destroyed their social structure and their aristocracy and replaced it with something new that there was no revenge for his various red weddings. But then, of course, he's against Mao Zedong, so he's going to fucking lose like every fucking time. No chance.
Yeah.
I feel like we could just
I don't think we need to
Yeah.
discuss.
Yeah, we can just talk
Yeah,
about
it's
Mao
Mao.
in the next rounds.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Mao.
I'm going to keep the thing on the screen, and then we can rapidly, well, relatively, we don't have to like rush it forcefully, but we can move much quickly through the rest of the rounds until we get to like the final four or something. Ho Chi Minh versus Bolivia.
I mean, look,
Simon Bolivar.
all love to Simon Bolivar. You didn't take on a bunch of empires. You took on one and just kind of scraped by.
Yeah, and it was an empire on its last legs.
And the People's Republic of Vietnam is still there, right?
Yep.
Doing pretty well. So let's go with our
Japan
Viet Cong
and-
boys.
Put those pajamas on.
That's what
boys.
VC
You're
stands
going
for in
forward.
this house. No venture capital.
Suvorov versus Frederick the Great. I think pretty clear for Frederick the Great.
Yeah.
Suvorov.
Oh, really?
I mean, Suvorov, great record, but I think I
feel
think
like-
I'm with you on Frederick the Great.
I think Frederick the Great was like more significant, even if Suvorov has like a better points record. If we're going purely off that.
Well, it's like if you think back to the NBA Finals, the Minnesota Timberwolves statistically, won the conference. Doesn't matter.
Tokugawa versus
It's Tokugawa. Stanisław Żółkiewski took Moscow, but Tokugawa Ieyasu had the perspicacity to give up on China.
Are we going to flip it on Kuba and force through the poll? Quinn?
Oh no! I'm voting Tokugawa.
Castro versus FDR. Fun one. Hard to really compare them.
Yeah, it's comparing apples to sugarcane. I'm inclined to go with FDR just because of the scale of,
The U.S. war machine.
yeah, the sided Japan and Europe and Asia, and to the extent that this was even possible because he had the shady deal with the Saudis to secure oil supply, but FDR was pushing back. You can't blame him for the military-industrial post-war creep, right? That wasn't his plan. That wasn't his goal. And when he saw people trying to do that when he was still alive, he tried to curb their influence. So FDR, as great as Castro is,
Yeah.
Castro was never able to get off the island.
Where should we put fucking... I mean, put Guevara on here. Two founders of a nation. Two fathers of a nation. Which one do we prefer? Ataturk or Garibaldi?
Which one do I prefer, or which one do I think should win?
Well, which one do you think you prefer on this list? Not who do you like more?
Yeah, I mean, as I prefer Garibaldi, but Ataturk fights, right? And wins fighting. So
Yeah.
that feels like a tiebreaker.
Quinn?
No, Ataturk.
Pardon?
Ataturk.
Okay.
We're all voting for the genocide heirs.
Speaking of genocide heirs, we've got Gustavo Adolphus versus Hernan Cortez. I think Adolphus won it because Cortez is just like, I think Adolphus much more just made history his own, while Cortez was like more pushed around by the tides of the times.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cortez, in his own imagination, was like Littlefinger, climbing chaos,
Yeah.
and finding his way up through the horrific shit that he was kind of thrust into. But come on, you're playing against the big boys here. Gustavus Adolphus.
Hideyoshi versus Moshe Dian. Yom Kippur War, which I guess ultimately Israel won, versus a draw in Korea, which fell apart after he died.
I'm inclined to give it to Diane this time, just to try to immunize myself against accusations of anti-Semitism.
I mean, I don't think this is the kind of Jew we should support morally, but
yeah, I mean,
but like I made an entire point in the previous round of explaining why he wasn't Polish, and now I got to balance that a little. And Tokugawa is the real Japanese Chad in my book.
yeah, I think it's good to go down to one Japanese guy so we can, because then also like if we're just down to one Japanese guy, we can kind of take the others guys into achievement with the one guy, and view it a bit more holistically.
yeah, I mean, like, doesn't feel good to vote for the IDF guy, but I do think.
I mean,
Hey! Don't lose sight of the fact that we're going to get. We're just setting him up to be smoked by Mao.
I was going to say he's losing in the quarters, like.
Yep.
Grant versus Mao. Grant / Sherman, if you want to go for that.
Mao.
Yeah, it's Mao.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you want to pay a bunch of money, it could change, but I think we're all voting for Mao.
Yeah, what was it that Lindsey Graham said to Bibi on those tapes about shekels?
This is an interesting one. Ho Chi Minh versus Frederick the Great.
I'm on Team Vietnam for this. I do not understand your beneficent favorability towards the Prussian.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I'm inclined to go Ho Chi Minh because he started with less. Like Frederick the Great made Prussia into a great country from like a mid one, but Ho Chi Minh made Vietnam from literally nothing. So, Tokugawa versus FDR.
Tokugawa.
Yeah, Tokugawa. I mean, look, all love to our favorite wheelchair boy, but you didn't unify Japan. Oh,
you
kind of unified Japan in your own way.
The Tokugawa, a little like the inferiority complex that Hitler had towards Mussolini. Tokugawa was never elected by anyone. He didn't ask permission.
I'm just going to... Ataturk versus Gustavus.
I think Ataturk, right?
I don't think that Swedish preeminence lasted long enough to
I mean, outside of
to secure this.
outside of burdening the U.S. with Delaware, like what lasting legacy did they leave us with?
There's some museums in Stockholm that have a bunch of looted Polish treasures, but that's not going to sting for anyone but me.
I really like Gustavus, but I'm fine with putting Kemal through. Got some. It's going to be like a quadruple Founder of Nation Final Four.
That's kind of what it takes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's shocking that Nicephor Czachinowski didn't make it this far. I mean, he created Yaksa.
The greatest Polish nation.
In all of Asia.
Yes, it's true. You can't say it's not true.
Perhaps the greatest Polish nation in all of Europe.
I gotta check the dates, but that may actually have been true if it was the partition period. But
it's like how the last Greek independent states were in Afghanistan and India. Because after the Romans conquered Greece, they were still going out in India.
That's right. The Bactrians.
We're putting Mao through.
Mao, right?
Yeah, we're putting Mao through. Come
Mao,
on.
yeah.
Mao. Mao, not of actually Mao like a cat, because that's got a different. What do you call it? Tone.
Character.
Tone. Well, yeah, character too, but when it's written out in pinyin, it's just a tone marker difference. I was making the semi-final polls, which was why I was distracted.
I mean, this one's tricky.
Versus, Ho Chi Minh and his best friend, Ziap, versus Tokugawa.
This is tricky, right?
Founder of Japan versus founder of Vietnam.
Well, but it's not just founder of Japan, right? It is also unifier of Japan.
Yeah, but same for Ho Chi Minh, right?
Well, yeah, but
he didn't actually unify Vietnam though before he died, but he
really.
put it on the
unifying
track.
From restoring.
There were fewer
parts,
pieces.
Two broken halves are much easier to stitch back together than a shattered web of different small warlords.
The Vietnamese also did manage to keep Laos and Cambodia more or less in their sphere of influence.
That's true.
And the Cambodians hate them for it, but the Laotians do not.
One day Lao gets its own socialist market capitalist bullshit flowering, and they become a middle income country.
And eventually, that's where whatever isn't roboticized by China and Vietnam will end up.
Yeah, not just going to be a vacation destination for Australians.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not just a casino for the Chinese or whatever.
Sure. If they ever get bored of Curacao.
I think it's clearly Uncle Ho.
I mean, I don't know. As much as I like Uncle Ho more, I still think that the quarter century of stability.
You mean quarter millennium?
Yes, I mean quarter millennium. That's my bad.
At the exact same time that the Europeans were imperializing and colonizing basically everybody.
Yeah. and like not at a time where a 250-year reign is easy. Like that's
I mean, but do you guys think the closed policy was actually for the best over the centuries?
So here's another data point that I'd bring up. When Japanese look back on their own history, the period that attracts the most romantic nostalgia is the Tokugawa shogunate. Right, that's considered to be a golden age by the Japanese themselves, and that's probably not unrelated to the closed economy. Incidentally, they were farsighted enough to permit Okinawa to serve as an emporium and to preserve the island of Dejima in Nagasaki as the Dutch trading post. So I don't know. I feel like in 50 years, if Vietnam is still on trajectory, I would give it maybe to Ho, but right now I'm leaning towards the Japanese.
Okay, it's up to you to decide, Quinn.
feels bad, but yeah, no, I'm voting for Tokugawa.
Damn. This is me
But
and
we'll meet
chat.
again in 50 years and we'll take another look.
Okay.
Well, it's me and chat, but me and chat are losing out to Tokugawa. Stop that poll.
If you want Uncle Ho to win, it's not too late to bribe us.
It's not too late for me to use arbitrary power to just make it happen. Hide. Start. Mustafa Kemal'in. Asker Ais. We had a friend in the Turkish communist military unit I was in. He used to be part of CHP, the liberal Ataturk party, Kemalist. So we'd make fun of her by chanting Mustafa Kemal'in Askerai Is, which is like Mustafa Kemal, of course, and then the in is like a possessive, and then Askerai is just soldier of. So you're just chanting, I am a soldier of Mustafa Kemal. But now we have a man I don't have a chant for. It's going up against him. Is anyone willing to argue for Mr. Ataturk?
No.
But this is the thing, guys, right? Ho Chi Minh would actually stand a chance against Mao, but instead he doesn't have a chance for the guys that you voted for.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be the same.
Look, I mean,
I think that Mao we should have maybe elevated him to the GOAT level,
Right.
where
like maybe it's not fair to have him in here.
Level,
yeah, it's the combination of creating the CCP, but also coming up with the guerrilla warfare insurgent strategy that allowed him to persist under the most unfavorable conditions and then defeat one after another the Japanese and the Kuomintang, right? Like that's.
Thank you soon.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's got to be Mao. It's got to be Mao, and I don't know if it's necessary to do the Japan versus China showdown because
the thing is, I would have at least made a strong argument for Ho over Mao because Ho's Vietnam beat Mao's China, right? They didn't actually go up against each other. I think both of them were out of power by the time it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by out of power, I mean dead.
mm-hmm.
But that's also a form of being out of power. But I think there's a strong argument there to argue for Ho over Mao. But with the matchup that you guys gave us, I think we're in for an easy final here.
Yeah. Let's just crown the emperor.
Let's close that.
Not the Shogun.
So who won our? What was the results of our pre-modern poll? And is there anyone there that you think would you'd vote against Mao for?
Let me see if I can find it in the chat. No, that's the.
Because yeah, there wouldn't be much point doing
The
a
pre-modern.
bonus semi-final thing if just Mao would just win again. We think so clearly. Kuba, have you seen Odyssey yet, by the way?
I'm not finding the bracket.
Oh right, sorry. The bracket won't physically exist if you are you looking in the video. Or are you looking for the bracket? Because I've overwritten the bracket with this one.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
But
I'm not going to find
you'll
it
be able
in
to
the
look
chat.
on the if you go on the video itself, you'll be able to get from whenever I had it open last at the end.
I'm sure everyone's loving this engaging programming we're doing.
Next week, probably we will be doing the Odyssey, the movie adaptation of the poem by Homer, which I watched with my uncle, and I
Small
thought was
spoiler alert. I didn't like it.
I thought it was good, but could have been way better if other creative decisions were made.
Yeah. I mean, it can always be better.
That seems accurate.
My account is going to be purely like it was a centrist movie, and should have committed to any of its ideas, instead of not doing that. Cooper, have you seen it yet?
Oh yes, I have. I have thoughts.
Good.
That should be fun.
That's all.
Okay, looks like last time Caesar won.
Caesar. Okay, what was
Julius
that? The top
Caesar.
four?
Well, Julius Caesar won all outright. It was
Yeah.
Caesar, Charlemagne, Cyrus, and Ashoka.
Yeah, I would probably vote for Cyrus over Mao.
I definitely vote Caesar over Mao.
Really? But
Julius
then I
Caesar?
don't even rate Caesar that much.
I mean,
Yeah, Caesar's kind of a
Mao
big
did
deal.
not weep, for there were no more lands to conquer.
Yeah, he was just like, damn, I need to get over Tibet so I can get into India.
People love to invade India. Kuba, would you vote for any of those ancient men over these modern men? Or specifically Mao?
Caesar certainly deserves. Right, the Roman Empire lasted significantly longer than that. It's epochal, right? It's an order of magnitude more than these 20th century nation revivals.
We got to the we got to the final Prairie Fire, but because these two had voted out Ho Chi Minh, it felt like a really obvious conclusion, so we didn't even bother going through it because it would just be Mao mogging. And Cuba's probably right that, like Napoleon Bonaparte, we should have excluded Mao.
Yeah, and that's what we can do. That's one of the prize that comes with victory. The Mao and Caesar are now elevated into the ranks of the goats, and if we ever do this again, they don't have to defend the crown.
Yeah, so if we ever did it again, it would be like a top 8 excluding 1, and then we add in 2 wild ones.
Thank you, Prairie Fire Ned.
Wow, I can't believe Grant won.
Yeah, really pull it off right there at the end.
Hold on,
but
let me modify the poll in exchange for this $20. That's 10 votes. So that changes this.
No, give it 4. No, give it 4.
No. Those have to carry over.
Yeah.
So right, 4.
Oh, right. I see. Right. And then this. How would we have actually voted?
I
I
would have
voted
given
Grant,
it to
actually.
Grant, probably.
Quinn?
No, I would have voted Grant too.
Okay, so I would have voted for, and then it would be, so it doesn't need to have any votes in this one.
So he's
And
still
then-
got 6.
Yeah, and then Mustafa.
I would have
Ataturk?
gone for Ataturk because Grant ultimately defeated politically.
I agree.
So then it would have been 4 votes on this one. And then
No, he had.
Other way around.
sorry, yeah,
he needs to get. Yeah.
sorry.
I would have gone with Tokugawa. Yes.
I would have as well.
And then I could go out of Grant out of spite. Add in Prairie Fires 2. Easy clap.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, the democratic system works.
Yep. Great.
Look, the problem with us is that, unfortunately, we are more honest than we are greedy.
We have a very odd type of integrity.
So who was Prairie Fire voting for last time? Was it Caesar? Who was giving money for? Because it was also when we were doing that, it was Prairie Fire against someone else. I think Prairie Fire ended up giving most of the money, but someone else was voting for somewhere else. I can't remember. What is this bourgeois degeneracy? This is a full 2 hours of bourgeois degeneracy.
No. This is just socialism with Chinese characteristics.
Mao is spinning in his grave, and that's how we like it. Didn't brush his teeth.
There's
Or
a
wash
reading group for
frequently.
this.
Yes, our friend Varn.
And
Boot
our friend
club.
of friend Tut.
When's boot club happening? Like now?
Friend Tut.
I think later tonight.
What was it? 9 p.m. Eastern time, so that's in
That's
3 hours,
4
2
hours.
hours, 4 hours. And then they have one 9 p.m. on a Sunday is a fucking weird time to have a boot club.
Well, it's 6 p.m. Pacific.
The Westerners, yeah. But then they also have one on 5 p.m. Eastern on a Friday, so Europeans can join. This is on
What?
Varn's Discord, which I can't link to you because I don't know what it's called. Or I'm not in it.
Probably called Varncord or Varnvlog
Can you
Discord.
even search for Discord? Like, I don't know how that works.
I don't know. I'm sure it's available on the Patreon for Varnvlog. So if you want to go throw some money to him, it'll be there.
Yeah, it's probably just in his YouTube descriptions too.
Or that. I don't know.
Vaughn Vlog Discord. So yeah, next week on Odyssey. Kuba, did you hate it, or do you just have thoughts?
My take is that they made Odysseus a very uncomplicated American kind of man. They made Matt Damonified somebody who should have been crazier and wilier and not the tormented Saving Private Ryan sad sack that.
I mean,
This
that's
is-
the whole thing.
This is actually what I keep saying about Christopher Nolan is that one of the big problems with him as a filmmaker is he can't help but turn his leading men into sweet, precious little baby boys that can do nothing wrong and that really are perfect at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is it's a centrist film. Like, people were saying, oh, it's a conservative film or it's a woke film. It's not. It just doesn't commit to either side at all.
Also, it should have been gayer.
The funniest thing,
There should have been more sex, gay and straight.
the
There
funniest
should have
thing
been
is,
weirder. There should have been bits. They were doing jokes. They pulled pranks. There were no pranks in that movie.
the funniest bit was the fact that they played around with like, oh, is Athena real or is she just in Odysseus's head? And then there was a witch who turned people into pigs, and they went to hell. So what the fuck were they playing out with like all the gods real or not?
Yeah, I
The,
have more thoughts on that. I
also-
do think that I want to give a shout out in case people want to watch it again before we do this. A better adaptation of the Odyssey, which is the 2000 film "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
I thought you were going to say the SpongeBob movie.
No, I mean the SpongeBob movie also not a terrible adaptation of the Odyssey.
An interpolation, some may say.
Sure.
I'll save my thoughts for next week.
Yeah.
Very good. Keep them wanting. Does anyone have anything to say before I click the end button?
Same bad time, same bad channel. Come listen to us talk about a movie.
You can see my gleaming white skin. As my webcam desperately tries to cope with it.